Bump it.
See, that's it.
Pull it.
Twist it.
Bop it.
Yeah,
Rub it. How did it say it in a sexy voice? Bop me.
Reminds me of a Robot Chicken sketch.
Bop me harder.
We were actually, when we went to see Rob, we actually watched all of the Robot Chicken sketches. Out of nowhere, we put it on.
I love this Robot Chicken.
Wank it.
Drive it. Cock it.
Ball is in parking lot.
Shoot it.
Gold.
Classic. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 19 of the Board Game Gateway podcast, where we are your entryway into the world of board gaming, tabletop gaming, and good times. Tonight, my name? I don't know where
Go on.
I don't know. Wait, coffee. I've got coffee. Hello, on tonight's episode, I, your host, Neba, am surrounded by these two lovely gentlemen. On my left, we have Matt.
That's not my name. We all have different names tonight. You agreed to this literally 10 minutes ago, didn't you?
Is this a yes and a bit? Because
You started. I don't know why you didn't carry it on.
And directly across from me, we have Mr. Blake.
Howdy doody.
Ooh,
Howdy doody.
Wow, he's changing things up. All right.
Jeez, howdy doody. We've been playing games for the 1930s, children.
This is a game called Scruples. That's a callback. Like, if you're new to this. Oh, anyway.
We still got to play that.
Yeah, we will. Don't worry. This is the first time joining us. This podcast is our attempt at making a fun and light entryway for you into the world of board gaming. We are trying something a little bit different tonight. We are one man short. Mr. Ralph cannot be here because he's at some sort of wedding rehearsal. They have to rehearse being wed these days. Yeah. Back in my day, we just had a shotgun pointed at us and we rocked up, you know. Oh, God. And so he can't be here. So tonight we're going to try something a little bit different. We're going to continue with our usual starting point, which is we're going to talk about the games that we've played in the last week. And we're going to take you through our board game, gateway game of the week, which this week is Bärenpark. So we'll do that. But then after that, we don't really have a discussion topic for you tonight. What we're actually going to do is we're just going to have a bit of a chat. We're going to have a bit of a reminisce. We've got some story time, which we've done before, but we don't really know where it's going to take us at the moment. So, you know, if you like that kind of content, you're in for a treat.
And if you hate that kind of content, then go tune into last week's episode right now.
Oh, so it's going to be a good one. But we'll start this week with the games that we've been playing this week. The first game that we're going to talk about this week is Libertalia, The Winds of Galecrest. And this is a game by Stone Meyer Games. I'm going to take us through how this one works. So Libertalia is basically a pirate game where we're all playing these crews of pirates, and we go on 3 different voyages, and those voyages last a certain amount of days. Each day is essentially a card that we play from our hand. But how this game works is that we are given an identical deck of 40 cards. Those cards have individual people shipmen that would come on your journey, and we all start with the same identical cards. We start with 6 of them of these 40 cards. We choose 6 random numbers. And each of those characters, then, we can play in whatever order we choose. So on the first voyage, we're going to play 4 of them. And depending on, the initiative order, so, the higher the card, the better, but generally the lower cards have more, powerful kind of, abilities. We're going to resolve those abilities, then we're going to take treasure from the island, and then we're going to resolve any nighttime abilities that happen on the ship. Then we're going to play another card from our hand and rinse and repeat through the game, taking treasure tokens, trying to come up with little interesting combos. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, you have the same cards. That doesn't sound that very interesting. But the thing is, we can all play them in different orders, which in turn starts to create these little interesting, combos of how these cards all interact with each other. At the end of the first voyage, we all then will bank any treasure that we have, and then we'll draw 6 more cards from this deck of 40 that's from what's remaining. And now we have 8 cards in our hand, and we have to play 5 of them. We'll rinse and repeat, we'll do that all again, and then we'll draw 6 more cards, and then we'll have 9, and we have to play 6 of them. How this game really starts to shine, Matt, I want to talk to you about this one, is because what ends up happening is you think, well, we all have the same cards, but the cards that you get left over from the previous voyages really start to make this game shine. Because what ends up happening is you can come up with a combo that other people then go, oh, I want to steal that combo. But yeah, I really like Libertalia. It's a light game, but I want to know what you guys think about this.
Yeah, look, I admit it, when we started playing it, that was my first thought was, we've all got the same 6 cards, and we randomly picked them as well, as you said, and it felt like, looking at my cards, I was like, I don't know how to make a combo out of my own deck, let alone how these will actually interact with each other in a positive way for me, in a negative way for you. Yeah. And the very first round, it very much felt like, I mean, we only played the one game. We probably should have played it again. But that very first round, and I think George probably would agree with me on this one, it was very much, well, let's just see what happens if I do this, right? And because we were both brand new to it, there's 40 cards in the deck. We drew 6 of them randomly. I'm like, are these good? Are these bad? I don't know. So I ended up feeling at the end of the game, I said, this game would benefit from a couple more players when you actually learnt the full deck and you knew what was remaining or had an idea as to kind of what was left in the deck that might come out in the next round, that might help you if you kept a card back in your hand. I enjoyed the play, and we picked it up very, very quickly. It's really, really clear on the board, you know, what goes where, what that actually means, when it went, like the actual flow of the time of the game, like daytime, evening time, then nighttime procedures, and then the iconography matching to your cards was really, really easy to understand. But I think for that first play, unlike a lot of other games where we've played, where that first play is so important and it really sells the game, right? I don't know if I would rush back to play it, other than so I could get a bit more of an understanding of the rest of the deck. But I wouldn't, I'm not excited to jump back into it. It wasn't one that I was like, yeah, we've got to do that again, right? So I enjoyed it, but maybe I wouldn't rate it as high as other games we've played in our gateway games.
It occupies this very interesting space, I think. Like, you've played it as well. You didn't play with us last night. You had shift work, unfortunately, so you couldn't join us. But you've played it as well. And what do you think? I mean, it's a very hard game to describe. Like, I've told you kind of the rules now, but why those rules are fun doesn't really make itself known, I think, through unless you play it.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat as Matt here a little bit, where I think when I dive deeper into most of my gripes with the game, or things that I didn't quite wrap my head around or like on a first play, I think would alleviate with multiple plays. Things like Matt was saying, like knowing what cards possibly could come ahead, that creates, more the combos, or thinking ahead. I'm going to save this card, whereas everyone else is using it now because I know I may get a card. You can gamble like that and maybe get a more powerful combo later. I will say the more I played the round, and again, we played with Ralph one round on the night that I played, but the more further we went into the game, the more it sort of revealed itself. You started to understand the asymmetry. What started out as symmetry in the first round, because you all had the same 6 cards, started to become more asymmetrical as the game went on, and people were making different decisions, keeping different cards, and then coming up with different combos later. I think that definitely would shine further on multiple playthroughs.
Do you think that's to its detriment, though, that the game gets better as you play just in a single game, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't open up going, okay, cool, what I'm doing has an immediate bearing. Like it's a steam engine, really.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things, right? You want your game to be better the more you play it, right? To encourage people to keep on playing.
Yeah.
But you also want to draw them in straight away. And I think you summed it up perfectly. I think I'm in that same boat. It's not a game that drew me in straight away on that first play. I would be happy to play it again, but same. It's not one that I'm rushing to go back and play.
See, it's interesting though, because you guys also mentioned the fact of like you do actually want to go back and try it with these different combos. Now there are some things that I think I need to mention. One of the reasons why I think I bought it, which is one that we played it at 3, but the game plays just the same at 6 as it does at 3. It played in
I
like
imagine
40
at 6 it'd be a lot more exciting, right?
Yeah, it's a lot. My first game was at 6, right? So I got the full 6-player experience when I didn't own it, right? And someone else owned it, and I'm like, got to get that game. And it played at the same amount of time, played in 45 minutes, right? Done, dusted, easy, right? A lot more tokens, a lot of fun stuff going on in the map, and I think that this game, I think, shines a lot more at a higher player count than it does lower.
I think the reputation didn't open up, right? I was like, there were cards that we played with that had, move it yourself up the reputation rank.
Yeah.
I was like, why?
Yeah, I didn't feel like that. I don't think I really played with that at all, or used it in any way, in any meaningful way.
And maybe that's because we play with 3. Maybe it's 6 players and it's a competition to be either at the top or at the bottom, because there were cards that send you to the bottom where you get more coins, obviously.
So if you imagine we had one of these moments, right, in a 6-player game, and I absolutely agree with you, right? The reputation track in anything less than 6-player, you still use all 6 tokens, right? It's just there to kind of start your income for the round versus your breaking ties. Now, the Brute is a card that we played with, and it basically has a thing that basically says discard the card that's the furthest on the right. Now, when this card came out in our 6-player game, you can imagine that we're all sitting there going, when do I play this card?
Yeah.
And we had 3 of us play the card at the same time out of 6 players, right? But the thing was, there was 2 cards higher than the other one and 1 below us. So it was like the one below us did their one first, and then the Brute killed the one on the right, then the next Brute killed the next one on the right, then the final Brute killed himself because he was the first, right?
Yeah.
And so you can see why at that moment when all they went down, the reputation track really mattered, because if you were too far up the reputation track, that Brute then killed himself, right? And I agree with you that we've always done it that I've said, hey, Matt, pick a random number. Blake, pick a random number. And we pick numbers and then, hey, here's our cards. Now, I do wonder if there would be recommended card sets where they go, you want high player interaction? Pick these 6. Do you want big money combos? Pick these 6. And that is not present in the rulebook. Now, the rulebook is just 8 pages of A5. So it's really easy to get into, really easy to play. But I agree with you guys. It is a really... I like this game, and I like how it is very simple, but you are right, which is that at first play, you're just like, well, I'm just playing cards. Why is this fun? And then it's not until Voyage 3 that it really kicks, and you're like, oh, I get it now. Yeah. And then you're like, we need to go again, because then the first round of the Voyage is... like, George ended up winning our game, primarily because in Voyage 2, he was the only one who scored major points, because we had a few real, like... take the saber, kill the person sort of thing. Treasure tokens. And he won based off of that fact. And going back into this, you'd be like, okay, I think if you were to get straight back into it, you'd realize how important Voyage 1 can be to give yourself a good head start, stuff like that. I don't know.
I think if the reputation track changed... as you said, if there were different settings, right? There was the 6-player version, and even if points were slightly different for 5, 4, and 3 players, so that it was more a competition, and you only had to play with the 3 players in reputation. Because that was the other thing. There's 6 reputation players, but only 3 actual... So 3 reputation, 6 markers, but 3 players. So was I in competition with the others? I don't know. And it just, that whole bit was a real soft spot for me. Now that you've said you had in the 6-player where you had 3 Brutes, I understand why the positioning is a lot more important than in 3 players. But it didn't feel worth it to be the top because you didn't get much money, and you couldn't really get to the bottom because we weren't playing anyone else.
Because no one else was pushing. Once you're at the top, no one was really pushing past you to get to the top.
Yeah.
And that's fair. And look, I think that's fair as well. I think this is a game that really shines at higher player counts. I enjoyed it. I think I had more fun at 5 and 6, more so than I've had with 3. It has a place in my collection for the moment.
Yep.
If it maintains to be that way by the end of 2023, we will find out.
That's it. So I spoke to the family about what we're doing next week, really, at family dinner the other night, and my sister and sister-in-law both mentioned Libertalia as a game that they enjoyed playing last time they played it. So, and I hadn't. I was like, "What the hell's that?" That just handily came up last night. So it has a following, and people who aren't as board game geeky as we are enjoy it.
I will say, from a tactility standpoint, the little treasure tokens,
Fantastic.
They're the Azul style of like heavy, heavy acrylic sort of thing.
Yeah.
They're just so much fun to pick up and play with. They're just heavy and stuff. It's great.
And I mean, it does. I guess it does sound like we may be a bit critical of the game here, but I mean, I really did enjoy the game. It had its moments. There's a few things like I don't think it was. I think I got a little bit confused in the game between different types of discards.
Yeah.
And when things were in a graveyard compared to a discard.
Yeah, when they're in your ship and when they're in your hand.
Yeah, there were little things
graveyard.
like that, which again would be alleviate on further plays and further understanding of the game. But this game did create some really, really fun moments. I mean, I remember when I believe it was Ralph swapped a couple of tokens around to benefit himself, which then immediately I swapped them back just to, not to benefit myself, but just to screw him over.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there were a couple of moments like that where, the game definitely lights up and it is fun to play.
Is it? Yeah, I think you're right. It's not a poor game.
Yeah.
It just didn't grasp me in that first play as much as other games do, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean the look of it's fantastic. Like
Stonemaier productions tend to be
Yeah.
pretty dang good. From the
You know what
get-go.
I would also say is that the cards themselves, like you're only playing with 6 in your hand or 8 or whatever we end up with, but when you play to your table, you end up taking a lot of table space with those cards. I think there might be a design change that game could go with where even just having the iconography in the top corner so you could stack your cards in, well, these are useless until the night time, or these are all daytime cards, so I don't need, I had them all splayed out. So imagine at 6 players, the game gets big, but it's not a big game. Like, it just felt...
Has table presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But unnecessarily so, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Look. I think consensus is we all enjoy it. Probably better at higher player counts, but it is one of those games that is the reason why it didn't make our list for next week, which we'll go into later. It probably is not that first teach. It doesn't hook you. New players, it doesn't, unless you like board games. This would not hook most people.
Yeah, and I mean at the 45 to an hour mark, I'm thinking. Someone asked me what I want to play. I'm thinking Cora. I'm thinking these other games that just hooked me a lot quicker and a lot more succinctly than something like Libertalia.
Something like our next game, I think. Like the Search for Planet X, which is going to be our second game for the week that we played. And this game is... We've talked about it before as a game that we've played, but I don't think we've actually broken down the game. I don't think. Maybe we have. I'd have to get...
Probably not. Maybe briefly.
Maybe briefly, but we've talked about it. But the Search for Planet X, Matt, I'm going to let you explain what this one is about. And we'll see how you go with your description skills.
Dun,
dun, dun.
The game comes in a lovely square-shaped box.
Well, we're off to a great start here.
None of that hexagonal shit.
It fits perfectly into a standard-sized Calyx cube.
I reckon that most board game manufacturers are in cahoots with IKEA because, the Calyx is far too perfect, and it's in every board gamer's collection.
Either that or someone at IKEA is a major board gamer.
Yeah, possibly.
Someone make a cube that's perfect. This is the worst.
I think game designers are now just going, we have to just put an extra 2 centimeters on this box because we can't have our game be the little game in the cube.
I think, sometimes it's like, God, I wish that game was like a better box so it fit nice. Because now I have to rearrange my whole damn collection to fit this one awkwardly sized, thin boy. And it's like, the width, actually, no, it's not the height, it's the width that's the worst thing. I would when they're not as wide as each other, that's the worst thing. I would much rather them be all the same width.
So, I mean, on my shelf at home, my collection, be as small as it may be at the moment, is just taking up one little square in my shelf, but it just doesn't fit. Atmosphere is front on and Cryptid is side on, and they don't fit neatly together by about 2 mil. It's ridiculous.
That hurts.
You can't squeeze them. Nothing.
Yeah,
everyone listening can feel that. Everyone's like,
look, as much as I love Twilight Imperium, the fact that the box can't fit into the Calyx kills me, right? I have, granted, I put it on top of my Calyx to display it, right?
Yeah.
So it's there you can see it on the top, right? So on the top of my thing is just, my display game. But at one point, I had it, put in, laid down, trying to put it in the cube. I'm sitting there going, No,
No.
I can't do it. It's going to go on top. It would just kill me.
There's probably an industry of Calyx edition games. Just reprints, but they've just changed the box.
Yeah, there could be like a board
How many
game
board
public-
games
that's
would be like, yes, sell everything and just go and get all those Calyx editions?
Yeah, I think that could be good.
Or
like,
just the box. Just sell the box, right? I already have the game, so just sell me the box.
mate, it should become a new standard of measurement. So this is a 1/3 KA, and so it's 1/3. So you have a third. You can stack 3 of them next to each other perfectly, and they fit in the Calyx, right? You know, this is a.
I think we're too nerdy about board games.
You say that, but people listening to this podcast are like, "That's so brilliant." Right?
I think we've just given away $1 million idea.
If you know that this was a 1 KA measurement, right? What's
1K ATM. 1K ATM. Just put it there.
Patent pending. Patent pending. But if you knew this game was a 1 KA measurement, right? But this one was half a KA, right?
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, I could fit 2. I've got to get that game just to put it next to it. You know,
I've got a half and I've got 4/8. Let's go. Let's do this.
we were all good. Oh, anyway, but we were talking about Search for Planet X.
Yes. So, Search for Planet X.
How many KAs is it?
It's
It's 1.
how big is it?
It's a 1.
It's a 1.
No, it's actually like
a whole one?
No, actually, no. It's like a 5/8.
Yeah.
It's like an imperial. It's imperial.
5/8.
It's like a 5/8.
5/8 KATM.
Yeah.
Oh,
we always
God.
have the trademark at the end.
Gotta protect it. Gotta protect that intellectual property.
Oh, God.
So what are we playing? Planet X. Search for Planet X. God, I've gotten off the beaten path there.
Twice.
So it is a hunt game where we're on the hunt for Search for Planet X. Planet X, obviously. It has a companion app with it as well. So the game is a. How will I play? We had Sexy Uno. This will be Sexy Cluedo. This is Cluedo on steroids. Here are your clues for where the thing is. You have to obviously resolve via those clues and what you can then decipher using the turns as you play the game with certain actions to get more clues. But also, and there's an element here of playing against everyone else. Everyone's in the same hunt, so it's first person to get to Planet X or find it and its adjacent items in space. But there is a bit of a race going on behind it, which I noted last night when we played it. Every time I've played this game, it's always in the same turn that everyone's like,
Yeah.
I've got to have a stab now, right? This is the stab round.
You just sort of know. I don't know how. You just know when everyone else is sort of getting there.
I think as well, every time we've played this, so as you mentioned, Matt, it's a logic deduction game. So on your turn, you literally you basically do one of 4 things. You basically say...
It's finding a new piece of information.
You basically find out a new piece of information, and how specific that information is means how far along the track you go, right? So the more specific your information is, much like a Hubble telescope or the James Webb telescope, like looking at one part of the sky for a certain amount of time, that's going to take you a long time, so you have to move further along the track, or you can be more generic and not move as far. But the game is really cool because you get research as well. So that's like, there are 6 rules to the game. So it's like, hey, the gas clouds can't be next to the comets, or, the dwarf planet is not directly opposite this asteroid, right? Yeah. There are 6 of these rules, but you don't know them yet. So you can spend a turn going and finding some research. You can spend a turn not to see what's exactly in a sector, or you can spend a turn basically looking in the sky. What I really love about it is with, how this race thing that you guys are talking about, how we all kind of finished. Now, I would be interested to see, now the game has got 2 sides. It's got a standard side where there are 12 sectors in space, and the expert side, which has 18. But on top of that, when you start up the app, you can say how many
clues you start
clues
with.
You start in each of these sectors.
Yeah.
I think we've only ever played the youth version, right? There's youth, which is you get 12 facts. Beginner, which you get 8, intermediate with 4, and expert with 0. I would be interested to play this game not playing the beginner variant, at least at intermediate, where you have to spend more time looking for more information.
Me and Ralph did play intermediate against Damien and
Reese.
Yes, Reese. And because they were beginners, me and Ralph were quite experienced, so we did play intermediate. It's a lot more daunting at 4 clues, I tell you what.
I was going to say, you guys said you were still close to getting
Wouldn't give
there.
you much.
No, not at all.
It gives you 4 pieces of information about the whole thing.
It was a really good setting because all 4 of us came really close, about the same time again. So we picked a really good setting for the game. Yeah.
Well, that's good then. So, and that what's also important is even though it's a race to find Planet X, the winner of the game is not the person who finds Planet X.
Yeah.
Because when someone finds it, then everyone else gets one of two options, right? You can either have a ping for Planet X as well, and depending on how close you were to the winner, depends on how many bonus points you get, which is a really cool mechanic because it's like you were 5 spaces behind the guy who just found Planet X. You can score the same amount, nearly the same amount of points as him because you theoretically have taken less time than him to find this answer. Do you want to have that shot? Or the other thing which Matt kind of mentioned, which is I think this is the coolest part of the game, is there's the theory phase, which is that 4 times around the board, you have to put in theories into the center of the thing. And a theory is essentially a little token that basically says, I think in this sector is a asteroid. Or in this sector, I think this is a gas cloud. But they don't reveal immediately. They reveal 3 turns later, 3 research sections later, right? And then if you're correct, you're going to get some bonus points at the end of the game. Congratulations, you're a smarty pants. But the bad thing potentially is that you've now just given free information to the table.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea what was in Sector 7, but Blake said there was
the bad thing is that it's usually about 6 turns later that it gets revealed and you know more and you're like, well, I know it's wrong.
Yeah.
Now I know what it is.
And then if you're wrong, you lose time.
You lose time. That's right. That's the bad thing about it.
Yeah, and so, but that theory phase really keeps you engaged. So this is very much one of these kind of multiplayer solitaire games. This is truly a game where you drop your head and you just sit there thinking about your own stuff. However, so there's no like player interaction as such, right? Other than, my place determines how many, like your turn and the different theories and whatnot, and you're using that. But what this game is so entertaining when you get to things like the peer review, right? Where it's like, we always do it because we all have the app open. So we go, okay, well, I peer review Blake peer reviews Matt, and Matt peer reviews me. So he's the one who, on his phone, gets to actually pull up my piece of information and go, I'm going to check this piece of information. And more often than not, you hear, do-do-do, all right? You're like, damn it. You're going to go, you're an idiot. And then sure enough, it turns around to you and it's the same thing. Like,
and you know what? I mean, we did it and it was funny and we all enjoyed it. That sort of theme of, that you've peer reviewed the person on your left or whatever it is, just so someone else, it actually fits the theme of being peer reviewed.
Yeah.
We didn't do it when I played with Ralph at his place and his group. And I thought it wouldn't make much difference. I thought, we were all just peer reviewing our own ones when we put it in. It was much less entertaining putting your own ones in.
I can imagine. I think part of the reason is it's like you have to trust that the person holding the phone is actually putting in the information as it is on the board, right? Yeah. And sure enough, no one's going to really be like, ooh, like it actually was, like I get the information. But it's actually one of those things of like, okay, if that's the case, the entertainment value from this one comes from these micro these micro moments with each other.
That's the interaction, right? Without it, you wouldn't have much interaction with the other players.
I love when those moments at the start of the game start off, as you said, as you're an idiot, you got it wrong. Whereas 3 turns later, and when you're getting closer to the end game, you hear a doo-doo-doo and across the board, instead of people laughing, they're like, oh shit.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've done something horribly wrong.
What do you mean that's not a gas cloud? I had that moment where I think our second game was one of our games. He got off to a flying start, right? He was so confident.
I had half the board and I knew. Right? I'm like, fuck, this is so easy. And then all of a sudden, George reveals an asteroid, and it's in a quadrant that I was like, I was so definite, I'd ripped the paper and said, there's no asteroid here, right? And that's where it is. It's confirmed. I'm like, oh, you got to be... No. It's just I just hung my head going, everything I know is wrong. This is horrible.
Those moments of watching Matt just go, what the fuck is that? Right? And those are the moments in this game that really make this game, because you don't feel like I've never felt dumb in this game, and I've never felt like, even though I've lost plenty of this game. Like, granted, I won the 2 games we played last night, but it made me feel the smartest. I'll get to that in a second. But I've never felt dumb even when I've lost. Yeah. And I think because, as you said, we've all been close.
Yeah.
And that moment where you're looking and then someone explains, I did this, and you're like, oh, of course, I was one step away. And it's never like it's not that you were dumb. It's that sometimes in the pressure of making this, you have to you make a couple of leaps and you're like, oh, that's wrong.
Yeah, and I mean, I think in playing games like this one, Cryptid, these sorts of games, I think over 90% of the games I've had to scribble out my entire working and start from scratch on this board without a rubber.
Yeah.
Which
Play with pen, so you
I
know,
will-
there's no erasing your mistakes.
We're not playing with pencils in this house.
I will say again, Ralph did play with pencil and a rubber.
No.
Took away from the experience immediately.
Soft.
Pens only.
But my favorite part about these realizations when they come up and you realize your entire work is wrong. At first you think there's the denial stage. No, I'm not wrong.
That's right.
I've done everything right.
there's
My
anger.
work is foolproof.
Then anger.
Until you look for about 20 seconds and you go, oh, I made that assumption. Why?
Okay, so here's what happened last night. George goes and does a general survey for asteroids in, like, I don't know, 9, 10, 11, right? And the sound from your app just says it's the sound that tells everyone you've done something, not yay or nay.
Yeah.
Just a sound, right? And in my haze, I've written down what he's done and heard the noise and went, oh, success. Well, there's at least an asteroid in those things. And just carried on, right? And then 4 moves later, the asteroid's on the other side of the space. I'm like, no, it's here. Your thing told me it was here. And it was like, no, that was not a confirmation sound. That's just...
He wasn't targeting, he was just looking
You son of a... Everything has turned to shit in front of me.
So,
We had in our game with Ralph, it was coming around the table and it hit that turn where we knew from now on everyone's going to be pinging for Planet X. Everyone needs to make their shot now. And Damien was the first one to come around to make the shot, and he pulls out his app, is putting it in, and everyone's holding their breaths wildly, and he puts it in, and then do, and you see his head to go into his hands. Oh no. What have I done? Oh no, I'm like, okay, I think if he's already guessing, everyone else is going to guess. I've got a 50-50 shot. I'm just putting it in. 50-50, I got it right. And then after you hear my ding and correct, Damien goes, oh no. I was right. I just put it into my app wrong. Because you have to guess on what Planet X is and either side. He had swapped either side.
Oh, no.
Poor guy.
And he put them in the wrong place.
Oh, no. Yeah, that
It was
sucks.
heartbreaking.
Yeah, I had one of those moments last night where... So, the great thing about... What I really love about the game is the fact that you can't see the entirety of the night sky.
Yeah.
You only can see half of the board at any one point. So, when you're searching for facts, you can actually only look at the half of the sky that... from the last player. So if you're in, like, when it's your turn, you're the last player in the thing. So you've only got however many sectors in front of you, either 6 or 9. And that is a very interesting mechanic because it's like, I really need information about Sector 3, but I can't because the sky is currently from sectors 11 through to Sector 5. And you're like, no, I really need that. But I had this moment last night where when we were playing, I had a terrible first. I was not doing great in the second game. I was like, I'm just struggling. I couldn't get the right amount of information. I'm sitting there and I had to take a ping right at the end of the game. And so I took a shot. I want one last piece of research. I'm like, I just need some information about what's going on here and and it clicked. And I took a couple of assumptions based on Matt and George both put a piece of research into an area. And I go, George offhandedly goes, did you just search for that piece of research? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, no, sorry.
So you know what I know.
Matt surveyed the same piece of the same
did the
3
exact same
sectors
move.
that George did, right? And he goes, so you're searching for asteroids in those 3 sectors? And he goes, yeah. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know what to do with that either, right? And that offhanded comment, my mind went, right, well, there's one asteroid in those 3 sectors somewhere, right? Because I go...
Good one, George.
I don't
Ruin the
think-
game for
I don't
everybody.
think it's 2. Oh, no, it was comets or something like that. I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, there's something in there. And I'm like, it's not... There's one of them. Because I don't think it's 2. Otherwise, he would have been like... And I was like, okay, and that one piece, so that made me have to make 2 more pieces of assumptions where I'm like, well, if that's the case, that's probably the case. And then I could tell that George was getting ready to guess. And I'm like, I got to take a step.
Or nothing.
Poor George thought he could only guess if he could see the
If you could see
quadrant
a
where
sector,
Planet X
right?
was.
And this is why in our chat I said
he actually should have won.
He should have won the game, and it was only 3 points different, so he would have won the game had he. And so Yeah, but it still goes in the stats app as my win. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, Damien. I didn't give Damien the win either.
You know what I love as well is when you compare everyone's chicken scroll on the sheets, right? You can see what abbreviations people have used and how they've tried to make sense of the information that not only they're getting, but they're taking notes of everyone else, which ultimately is both very useful and completely dumb, right? Yeah. Like, there are moments where I checked your list, and I was like, I don't know what the hell you're doing. I've taken notes of what you've asked, but I don't know. There was only one point where I was like, you'd made a theory guess after like the second move, like it's all asteroids, and that must be an asteroid because you've gone, well, that's an asteroid. Like you don't know anything else. So other than that, it had no bearing on me at all. But it's still fun to go, yeah, maybe you did this. Like there's a minuscule amount of information you could garner from it.
But that's the thing in the expert mode as well, you can put up to 2 pieces of theory down every theory turn. So if you're wrong, the punishment is you lose 1 turn. And that doesn't sound like, not 1 turn, 1 time, 1 sector. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it can be a lot, especially if you get multiple wrong. Like I lost 2 sectors because 2 of my theories were both wrong on the same turn. I'm like, are you kidding me? So I'm like, okay, I had to move them along. But this game, it just is pure, like you can't blame anyone but yourself.
Yeah.
And then when you...
That's very true. There's no one stopping you up but yourself.
There's no one stopping else up but yourself. Like, one of my pieces of what I do now is, like, whenever I'm... Like, there's a difference... Like, I've got crosses, but I've got scribbles. Like, the scribbles is, like, this one came from the app at the beginning of the thing. So I can forget this for the rest of the game, and I'm going to scribble it out. Yeah. But crosses... Maybe I could have got crosses wrong. So
that's smart. Everything just gets scribbled out. And then that leads me to redrawing them all back in when I realise I've made a mistake.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, I've played it again, and I actually I've been flip-flopping on my deduction games. I still think this is actually my favourite one. Break the Code is a lot easier to get out because it plays in 20 minutes. You can get Break the Code out, put it in front of people, and go, we're just going to do 5 number guessing. But from a pure deduction logic, like the moment I made this guess for that second game for the win, I felt like the smartest man alive. Because I was like, I had to make the logical leaps going, well, if this is the case, that means this
smartest
one...
man alive.
But like, that's what you know, when you beat...
Turn his mic off.
What about the game when you played of it and you beat Blake? How did you feel?
Right? Yeah, but literally, I took a stab. Like, I saw him gearing up, I'm like... this might work.
Yeah.
But I didn't think it was going to work. Like, I didn't go in with much of a hope. And when it paid off, I'm like, oh, that's nice.
I am the smartest man alive.
It didn't feel smart. I just felt lucky. Sorry, you go, Blake.
I think this game, like, despite, like I've said, it's not my favourite deduction game. I prefer Cryptid, very similar, but I just prefer the player interaction. In that, like you said, the theories can come into play, or and what you're writing down what other people are doing doesn't really, I don't find that has much bearing. But the way this game presents itself, and like we're talking about the other week, theme and how it interacts with the board game, this game's theme is phenomenal. The night sky you can only set for certain pieces. Your actions are actual time along the route. Your pieces are telescopes. Like,
it's very well balanced.
It is.
One of the most amazing things from a presentation standpoint is that you actually don't put this game like perpendicular with your table. You offset it. So because everyone is given a different sheet of paper, so you've got one of the 4 sides: summer, autumn, winter, and spring. And the reason why you get a different side is because I need to hand you the specific sheet of paper that matches the side you're sitting on, because they've made it so that the sheet, the sky on your deduction paper matches how you would be looking at the game board. Yep. So sector 6, for me, where I'm sitting, is probably at the 12 o'clock position. So on my sheet, it assumes you've got the autumn board, you're sitting on the autumn side, therefore 6 is at the 12 o'clock position. And it is such a little touch, but it is so perfect, because it's like, I can just look at my thing and look at the board and go, I don't even need to necessarily remember 6. 6 is over there, but over here, it's like, I go top, yep, I know what I'm talking about, and away we go. Such a good thing.
It's the kind of touch that I don't think you even register. Right? You would certainly register if it wasn't there, but because it is, like when we played and I gave out the wrong sheets, no, you get this. I was like, that's right. And I didn't even think about it the whole night.
Well, you accidentally gave myself and yourself the right one, but then you gave George the wrong one.
Right.
And I was like, it made sense to me, but then George was like, what? And I'll give you take the right one. He goes, it all looks the same. So, yeah, look, I love this game. Really.
Last night, in the second game, when we got given our 8 clues, I made a mistake with just my clues. Like, we hadn't even started technically playing the game, and I'm already stuffing up my sheet. I'm like, oh, you gotta be, come on, man, just read the instructions.
If we've learnt one thing, is that Matt needs to just take a breath.
I just need to slow down.
I always mix up asteroids and comets.
Yeah.
I don't know why, I just always...
I find that when you play with the 8 clues, though, like, you'll get a string of clues that'll say Sector 4, Sector 5, Sector 6, and naturally you go, well, the next one must be in Sector 7. Sector 11, what the hell? No, the 7 comes after 6. What?
Yep.
Oh, that's right. I don't get a clue for every quadrant.
Yeah, you gotta do that. Anyway, that was Search for Planet X. And now we're going to go from there. We're going to go into our gateway game of the week, which this week is a quite a fantastic, I think, little tight package called Bärenpark. It is designed in 2017, designed by Blake, who is not by Blake. Blake, can you tell me who the designer is? Since you got the phone over.
Really?
Oh, I designed a game? Wow.
And he doesn't even have a copy of it.
Phil Walker Harding.
Phil Walker Harding, there you go. And it's currently ranked in about the mid 300s on Board Game Geek. But this game is one of those games which I have seen around for the past 5 years. I remember seeing when Shut Up and Sit Down did a review of it at the time. And I kind of overlooked this game. I was like, meh. The theme, Bärenpark, Tetrominoes, meh. I didn't really like it. But then I happened to play a game with Tristan, who is one of our Discord members. He said, hey, look, I'm starting up a game via Board Game Arena and I want you to come play. And I went, yeah, sure, we'll do it via correspondence, whatever. And literally I was 3 moves into this game and I went, no, crap, why did I overlook this game? Because I think this game immediately made it to my pool for my top 10 gateway games.
Wow.
I added it straight in. I'm like, yeah. So Bärenpark is basically a game where we are creating our best zoo of only bears. Polar bears, sand bears, there's other bears, I'm sure, koala bears.
Drop bears.
Drop bears, all the stuff. And the way that it works is that you're given a 4x4 grid and you have to basically place, different tetromino pieces on the park, and you're trying to cover up little icons. There are men with wheelbarrows, the dump truck, not a rear behind, someone an actual dump truck,
Well, maybe there's bare asses. Maybe there's
there's a crane. There is a workman. And depending on what you cover up with your initial pieces, depends on what pieces you can take from the central board. The wheelbarrow is small pieces. The dump truck allows you to take, some four different up to 4 different of these pieces that are worth victory points. And then the cranes, which there are only 3 of them that you get per game. They give you these one-off special tetrominoes, which if you're the first one to get to, you get big points for it and a lot of coverage. The game ends quite simply when you're the first person to cover up all 4 of your 4x4 grids, and then everyone else gets one more turn, and the person with the most player points wins. There are some objective cards. 3 objectives come out randomly as well. Those things may be like, hey, be the first person to have 3 panda tiles, which are all the grey ones, or be the first person to have 3, jungle bears, or I don't know, drop bears. Have 3 Bundaberg, rum bears, sitting the Coca-Cola bear. I don't know.
Yogi bears?
Yeah, have 6 of these, the park tiles in a clump, or like in.
Hey, boo boo.
Have 5 Yogi bears. We should name them all like that. That's the Coca-Cola bear. That's the Bundaberg bear. That's Yogi bear.
That's the dump truck.
That's the dump truck. So on and so forth. And that's the game, basically. It's a very lovely gateway game. I want to pass this to you guys, what you think of the game. Now, granted, we played on Board Game Arena, so I'll put this out there. So we didn't actually play with the physical pieces. But what did you think of the actual
We also
game?
played on our phones.
Yes,
so
that too.
We played at probably 1/10 the scale of the actual game.
Matt's first thing was, I don't have my old man glasses for this. What are we doing? But what did you think of the actual game, though, from a gameplay perspective?
I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's the phone, maybe the small scale. We didn't play with objectives, did we?
No, we just played the very beginner version.
I think that
of this.
may up it for me a little bit, having some extra objectives to go. But I don't know. I sort of found like I was just sort of placing pieces, just trying to make my
It's
own
very simple,
board.
isn't it? It's a very simple sort of game.
Yeah, it isn't. I don't know if I found it that engaging, to be honest. I don't know if that's just a highly critical review, but
I think the medium doesn't help.
Definitely.
Playing on our phones and
I think
having to scroll up and down to,
just to be able to see other people's boards and what they're doing.
even to see if it was your turn or not.
Yeah.
That was...
I mean, half
don't
the
think that
fun of
helped us.
Tetromino pizzas, right, is picking them up and, holding them physically over your board. Oh, no, that doesn't work. Oh, trying to... So, I mean, look, I think the medium definitely didn't help, but on that, only one play, admittedly, I didn't grab me.
I'd love to know how it plays in real life as well. Like, the app takes a lot of the guesswork as not only where you can place, but what you've covered up, so then what you need to pick next, right? So it gives you, it very much takes you by the hand in the app, which most BGA stuff does, I suppose. But I'm with you in that, I mean, I don't think I'm a big fan of Tetromino stuff in the first place. It seems to be that you're always playing your own little game. There's the interaction is when pieces get taken that you were banking on, which can create a bit of frustration. But I've yet to find a Tetromino game where there wasn't another way around, right? Where someone else, stuffing you up really stuffs your own game up.
Yeah.
This game was the same. It's like, okay, you took that piece, I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
There's enough other pieces to go around, even all the way to the end. And my last placement stuffed me up on the points because I just wasn't paying attention. But even then, I was only one piece behind completing my entire four quadrants behind you. So I see the value in it, and I'd probably imagine it'd probably be a really good gateway game as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, tonight I was like, meh, I'd take it or leave it.
Yeah, I also think as well, we did miss quite a lot of the stuff, which is we were playing on our phones because we wanted to play the game to make sure that you guys got an idea of it. And that didn't help because we were kind of quiet, all focusing on our own thing. I couldn't look up and see what you were doing. I'd have to look at it on my phone.
Yeah.
However, I will say, and I will reiterate, this is now one of my top 10, I think, gateway games to introduce to people. If I can get my hands on a copy, I think I will, because you've kind of said the points which aren't necessarily engaging for you guys as gamers, but I think make it a perfect gateway game,
Definitely,
which is it's low confrontation. It gives you a lot of options to kind of work on. Well, if Matt takes the piece that I really wanted, now I have to kind of figure it out. Okay, that's another thing. The other thing is, well, it's the rules explanation took less than 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It was literally take piece, put it on the board, cover icon, take a specific piece.
Yeah.
That's literally the game in a nutshell. Cover it, and then it's like, okay, go ahead and find. I do think this game in person will have a couple of different things. It'll have the presence of, like, I think the artwork of the bears will become a little bit more cuter in person. I think you kind of lose a little bit of that in on the screen. But I also do think, I will say the reason why I didn't buy it again is that I still don't really like the theme. I know people are like, oh, it's a bear park and blah blah blah, it's kind of cute, but I'm like, yeah, but it's the same reason with Isle of Cats. Like, I liked the game, but the theme of Isle of Cats did not pull me in when I saw it. And the same thing with bears. Like, I would much rather Ark Nova, where it's like, hey, I'm making a zoo of all animals, rather than one specific animal. And it's kind of like,
You know what I did notice is that the artwork, I mean, we didn't get to, zoom in on it on the phones, but when we'd finished the parks, they felt like they looked very haphazard.
Yeah.
The colours don't flow very well. The pieces are obviously individual tiles. They're not meant to, a path connects through to the next tile kind of thing. Like, just something like that would make it a bit more cohesive to look at.
Yeah.
The polar bear thing is blue next to a jungle piece that's green, and
you've got a
panda bears
river,
were grey.
a river leading to a toilet, and
yeah, that's right.
I mean, the
I know
game,
there's only so much you can do with a Tetromino, but
for sure. And I mean, I think the game that I'm starting to compare it to in my head which I really liked, was King Domino. You know, that game, when you're putting it together, you're obviously trying to score as many, you know, farms or, you know, rivers in one place. So naturally, most of the time, those pieces, barring some, you know, bad pieces drafting, are going to go together. It sort of starts to look cohesive, like an actual castle. What it would look like outside the castle. That's sort of, I don't know. It puts
But
it in
each
a
of your
way.
tiles in that, in their very bright primary colours, they're still like most of your square tile on that is just that colour.
Yeah.
Right. So from afar, it would probably suffer from what I was just saying about this, but I didn't feel when we played King Domino that, because you are meant to be connecting the colours, you are trying to make that cohesion happen. It ultimately feels like you've done that, right? It feels like, okay, that is where all of the river is, and that's where all of my forest is, as best you can. Whereas this one was, but I need the squiggly piece here.
Yeah.
So even if it doesn't look right, I've got to put it there.
I will admit, you are right. Like, once I put a piece down, I instantly forget about it. I don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Or I just need it there so that I can connect the next piece. And my mind goes, okay, I need to cover these icons, so therefore I need to get this piece to cover those ones. I put that there. Sweet, I've now covered those icons. I need these next pieces, and I've already forgotten about the piece I just put down, because it has no bearing on the rest of the game from that point.
I mean, I don't know what kind of extra objectives can come out, like the full range of them, but I mean, even if you had something simple like have 3 connecting water tiles, or
we had the 3 that we played in with the game that we played, which was, you need to have 6 grass tiles, which are the ones that you get for the wheelbarrow. You need to have 6 of them all connecting.
Oh, so we did play with...
No, we didn't play with objectives, but this was in the one that I played with before I showed you guys. So it actually gave you a reason that you may want to go for the smaller pieces, because you're the first one to put 6 of them together in a clump. You get 9 points, right? There was one where it's the first person to play 3 panda tiles, so it gave you a reason. Do you want to rush and get less points because the thing about the dump truck tiles is that the first ones to take it are worth more than the preceding ones. The first one's worth like 6 points, then it's worth 5. If you take the next one, then worth 4. So the question is, do you want to take multiple of these quickly to be able to get that objective? And then the other one that we had was play be the first one to play all 4 of the dump truck icon. So you have to play all 4 of them in your board somewhere. So do you want to specialize in the panda? Do you want to go all of the ones across? Do you want to go for the green ones? Because you can get a lot of them quickly. That objective, which we didn't play with, does add that little bit of extra spice where you're like, okay, now rather than just looking for the next one that maybe helps, like you've got some kind of vision of where you want to go and what you're going to try and do.
I think that creates a little bit more player interaction. With King Domino, you're sort of drafting against other people as well. Which creates that interaction, whereas these would, I can see Matt's probably going for this, maybe I won't. Maybe I need to pull out from that one, maybe I just need to concentrate on doing.
And I will say as well,
else.
by comparing this to Isle of Cats, which is the last Tetromino one I played, in Bärenpark's favour, I felt like I could complete my park. I felt like I could cover every square I needed to. Whereas Isle of Cats, I was like, I'm going to get half of this ship maybe covered, which is when we played it and Georgie almost filled her entire ship. I was like, how? We've both had the same amount of turns. How have you got so many more cats than I do?
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I mean, the way that the game limits to the four pieces only, and you're all sort of drafting similar pieces. You all have the same amount of icons on each board. You're all going to end up finishing around the same time. I mean, Nee was 1 turn ahead of us, but we both were finishing ours on the next turn anyway. It just, I don't know. It just didn't feel like there was any, there wasn't too much variation in what you were deciding.
There was a lot of tension there, was it?
Yeah.
This game feels to me like a Sunday afternoon with Nan and Grandad.
Yeah.
Like, it's a game that I would take to play with my grandparents where we can just whip out the game, play a bit of something, have a tea and some biscuits, which is what a lot of people say. And I think, that's that's to me what this game is.
Yeah.
It feels this niche of like, this is why I think it's a great gateway game, is because it shows people that a game can be very laid back. It is a very, very laid back game. It's just like, hey, pick a tile, put it down, you play with the tetromino pieces, and then a winner at the end of the game. And then the objectives give you a little bit to focus on. You're like, oh, but then if you really want to get good at it, you can actually focus out and go, right, I really should be doing X, Y, Z. I should be doing this. And I think that's why I think it's a really great gateway game. I do think as every tetromino game loses a bit of something in BGA, you do need, this, especially these sorts of games where it's like, I pick it up, I rotate it, I flip it, I look at it, and I can visualize the board.
Yeah.
That is missing in the digital and
version. Especially on a mobile phone, where I think that one of the biggest draws of this kind of game is going to be the visuals, right? Being able to see. I didn't know until the end of the game that every piece was a bear tile. I thought we were actually just making a zoo, and they just named it Bärenpark. And we just
some kind of
there were
German names.
Yeah, and until you pointed out that every tile was a different type of bear, I thought, oh well, I didn't even notice that on the small phone. So we lost a lot in the medium, I think.
Look, like I said, it definitely is one of my top 10 gateway games. We'll see how it gets ranked. Yeah, but look, we won't. We'll keep going. I think. Look, this one gets a must be played in person, but don't. This is not. This is a very light game. It's very light. But we've been talking a little bit about this. So that was Bärenpark. We're going to continue on now. We've been talking a little bit about what is coming up next week, and so I just want to give a little plug now, if I may, which is next week, which is episode 20, which is our first major milestone that we ever set for ourselves. We're going to be releasing during that podcast the Board Game Gateway's top 10 gateway games. Now, what we've done is we have each picked 15 games that we believe are the best gateway games for ourselves, for different reasons. We've said these are the 15 we think, and we have all sent them to my wife, my lovely Georgie, and she has then taken those games to create a pool of games. She told us that there was 37. We have then used the Pub Meeple ranking engine, which we've all used for our top 10 games, to then rank these games against each other to give them a ranking value. And essentially from there, she then takes all 4 of our ranking values, and then we'll figure out whoever has the lowest value is our number one game as a group. We don't actually know what it's going to be until she reveals them on the podcast. That is all episode 20 is going to be. She is already holding it over my head that if I'm annoying to her this week, she's going to be super annoying with the fact that she knows what these top 10 games is. Literally,
You've given her too much power.
The thing was, it was interesting. We sent her the lists last night. We all finalized and we all sent her our top 10s last night. And she literally, at 11:30 at night, whips out her laptop after you said Matt was the final one to send it. She's like, okay, I've got all the information now. And she literally opened up her spreadsheet and put all of it in and worked it out. And I'm like, are you doing that now? And she's like, gotta know. I gotta know. And I went, but I'm not allowed to know. And you're doing it right next to me. It was like the ultimate form of like, tell me, don't tell me, but tell me, but don't tell me. Damn it, like I really want to know. But so episode 20 next week is going to be only this top 10. None of us will know. So she's actually going to be on the podcast. This is our second ever guest. And we're really excited to have her on the podcast. Actually, she's going to be the agent of chaos. She has told me that she's told me that she wants to get actual envelopes and put the games in there. And so then you actually has to actually open up the envelopes, not just like on a sheet of paper or something like that. So
nice.
So this is going to be a tradition that we're going to do every year at the end of the year, and we're going to come up with a new pool, and it'll be our. I wonder
if our lists will change. It'll be interesting to compare list to list.
I think
new games come out as we learn more.
Tastes change.
Tastes change, or if we from experiences of teaching games as well. Maybe a game you thought was a good gateway. And so we're very excited for that next week. So I just wanted to give a shout out to that. If you're listening, get ready for that. And speaking of Georgie and stuff, though, I want to say that she's one of those sleeper people when we play games that she's like a Matt. She takes a while to process those games, but when she clicks,
she's a fucking viper. That's what she is. She's quiet, and then all of a sudden, bang, I'm dead.
She's a Tom. She's a Tom and a Blake when we're playing Twilight Imperium. They sit in the back, just being all quiet, and then figuring out this monster 45-minute move that ends up just dicking over the rest of us and gets them the win. And I say to Georgie, I go, the biggest compliment I can ever give to you as a player is that I actually have to play my best. Because if I don't play my best, you will just win.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm playing my best and I win the game now, but if I don't, you will just win, and I don't want you to feel like you've fake won, like I'm just giving you a win. Like I don't like doing that to people. Like there are times with little kids where I'm like, yes, I'll give you the win, and then there's times when my daughter gets a bit big for her britches, and I'm like, all right,
time for a lesson.
It's my time now.
Just straight trounce on them.
And I think that comes from being one of 4 boys, right? Nothing ever came easy for the win, right? The wins never came easy. I think it was just. I do remember the first time, we were ever playing Monopoly and stuff like that. Like, as a young kid, I really did like that game, but I realize now I loved the experiences that it gave us. Like,
for sure.
My Uncle Jim, he very much introduced Monopoly. We were playing Monopoly one night. I still got this memory from when I was maybe 5 or 6 years old, maybe in like year 1 or 2. And he was like, tonight on Chances, right? Chances was the card you pick in Monopoly, but it was this game show. It's like, what? Come on down, Johnny, tonight on Chances, right? He picked up the card, and then it was like, oh, I thought it was the funniest thing in the world. And I don't know, I just
love it.
I can't remember what Community Chest was. Not as good as tonight on Chances.
Obviously, didn't leave as much of a mark.
No, it didn't. But like, I don't know. Like, I think back on this and I go, I know back in those days as well. I remember when parents would, when you reach a certain age and your parents let you win, and you're like, no, do your best. I want to beat you. Yeah. And I feel like with me in board games, I feel like that's how I am at the moment. Whereas like, I'm at a point where, especially a lot of my friends, where we like us as a group, like no one holds back because you want to earn the win. Yeah. It's not about me beating you; it's about me earning the win, right? Like I bested you tonight.
I still remember when I first beat my dad at chess.
Yeah.
First game I beat my dad.
I remember that too.
I was so happy with myself, ecstatic, over the moon, till the next day when he told me that he let me win. And that he let me win because he wants me to understand, like, board tactics or what you have to do to get a win. And I just looked at him and I was devastated.
Yeah.
How
dare you take that away from me?
It lost all meaning.
It's me with Tom. Tom, you're Matt's brother, but he is a much higher rated chess player than me. I rarely win, but I have beaten him legitimately. Yeah. And those moments when I've beaten him and I've gone, oh my god, the strategy worked, and everything clicked. I'm like, got it, yes, right. I got the win. And same with you, Blake. Right when we started playing, like you had this massive win streak, and then I finally started fixing it, and I finally got a couple of things. I'm like, oh my god. I
don't know what it is about your style that I struggle against, but it's the same thing. I have to play my best to beat you. If I don't concentrate 100%, which when we're late at night, 10 p.m. and we're the last 2 on Discord, and we go, do you want to play a couple of games of chess before bed? Yeah, let's go. You're sort of in that relaxed mode. It's a wonderful
world all over again where you're like, why are we doing this?
5 turns in and I'm bolt upright again at the screen, looking at it, staring. It's a 5-minute game, but I'm spending a minute on a move just going, oh my god, what am I going to do? It's serious.
Coming back to letting kids win, we mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I've been playing Carcassonne with the kids. I did mention that Anna went for a big castle that she failed on and we let her fail, but I didn't mention in that podcast I took the last piece and it would have finished her castle and I chose not to give it to her. Like,
she needs to learn.
I finished the game by taking her win away from her. She's only 8 years old, but that, like, I mean, it's going to be a core memory for her. I can feel it because she sunk into herself, right? And I didn't feel good. I must admit, it wasn't a proud dad moment, but at the same time I was like, no, I told you 6 moves ago, 5 moves ago, 4 moves ago, castle. You need to finish that because it's going to run out. No, I'm going to go for a big one. Okay. She didn't listen to me, and I was very tempted to give it to her. Like, I was very tempted just to, hey, here you go. But I thought, no, there's a moment that needs to be learned here, and you're going to learn it the hard way.
Well, I think this is also the part of games as well, right? Which is that Evie, my daughter as well, is now starting to learn, like, ha ha, I win, right? Like those kind of moments where I'm like, okay, first of all, check yourself before you promote yourself, kid. Right?
Yeah.
Second of all right, like, I don't also want to spoil the win by saying I let you win, but I have to teach you how to be graceful in victory and defeat and whatnot. And I find that with the kids as well. And when we're playing at the moment, it's like I do think we actually have a really good group. Everyone doesn't really take things personally, especially we've played games like Diplomacy and Twilight Imperium. Yes, they sting, but we also big enough to laugh at ourselves and realize that yes, it's just a game.
Yep.
Right. And in some games, especially with kids as well, like, taking the last tile was not a great thing, but it was the best move for you to do to win the game, which is you gave her the options and she decided not to follow that advice. So therefore, this is the repercussions of doing so. And in so, she was upset that she lost the game, but that was her choice.
Yeah.
It was her choice not to do it. And games really provide us this really interesting medium to give these kind of scenarios to kids where it's like, the greed variant of rolling dice, or, you're playing Carcassonne and you want to keep this castle going. But there's, nothing stopping you from, you can do that, but you're making that choice. And, she has a core memory now, and now next time maybe she will finish that castle and bank the points.
Yeah.
And unlike so many other aspects of life, especially for teaching moments like this, the element of luck in the draw of your cards is something that kids can't control, and so therefore the choices that they make are so much more important, right? They aren't just blasé choices, and it means, like Robbie's a great sportsman, he usually beats Anna in most physical contests. That's a given because he just is that type of kid. So the games have taught him, okay, you don't get to win that often, right?
Yeah.
And it's not because Anna's actually a great board gamer, it's just that's the luck of the draw, right? And he, in himself, I've noticed he's changed his attitude to winning other aspects of his life now. If he doesn't win, it used to be that was the end of day every day, right? Didn't win the race, didn't win whatever it was. He just shut down. Now he's like, all right, let's go again. I'm going to try again. He won a game up in Queensland, and you could see that moment of, okay, cool. That's my first win, but I'm coming back to try that again, right? And so I actually bought the big box version of Carcassonne for Christmas for him as a big family gift. And I think it's going to be one of those ones that at least for the next 12 months, we're going to play all the variations and just get them really thinking about the different strategies and the different choices that you can make. Not, as you said, not just in games, but it's actually a life lesson all over, right? How to play with other people, how to communicate with other people, how to not be a sore loser and not be a sore winner, which is, I actually hate more than the sore losers, to be perfectly honest.
I think as well, thinking about that as well, is like, you're right, it is very much a life lesson of how you approach, like listening to Robbie's approach of going, I lost, but I want to play again and try again. I want to try something different. That's something that a lot of people can't do in their real life. But also, granted, in a lot of real life situations, we're maybe not given the option to maybe have a redo.
Yeah.
And whereas games give us that option, especially, and that's allowing Robbie to have that idea of like, okay, it's okay that I lost, but let me go again and let me try something different. Or maybe, for example, with Anna, like you can say you're teaching her these moments of, you can't be too greedy. You've got to, bank it in, mate. Like you've got something good going on. Maybe bank it in.
I don't even know if in Anna's case she was trying to be greedy. I honestly think that it was more a lesson of, oh no, I have to pay attention to how many turns I've got left and make the strategic decision, not just keep going and going and going, right? Like there is an end point. And I don't think she was fully aware that she was running out of moves, right? When I say there's 4 goes left, there's still 20 tiles on the board. For a kid, that looks like a lot of choice. Yeah. Right? But it's, no, you've got 4 of them. That's you're only going to get 4 of them, so there's not much chance. So we're also teaching, chance and risk and opportunity as well. So, I mean, not just for the kids' sake, it's, board games in general teach adults a lot as well. Coming back to what you said about the group, you're right. We have an awesome group of people who play who don't, it doesn't carry over. Nothing carries into the next game. If it does, it's faux. It's not real anger, right? It's this bullshit revenge story.
Except for when Nick wrongs me.
Then a forever war is a forever war at that point.
And actually, the war between Georgie and Ralph seems to be brewing under the surface as well at the moment.
Look,
the scorpion.
Yeah. I find that as well with our group. If you think about like the games I think it also comes down to as well, we as a group are really understanding of the fact that you need to do the best move for you. There's nothing personal here. It's just, I think the best move at the moment is to do blank, right? Which is, and that can be a bit of really a hard pill to swallow for some people. Like we played in our last game of Twilight Imperium. Ralph, his very first move of the game, one of the first objectives was control 6 planets outside of your home system, right? Ralph, unfortunately, had a sector that was missing one of these planet tiles next to him, right?
Yeah.
So he had to go and be in someone else's sector to score things. His very first move of the game, move 2 or move 3, was literally go and take the planets from Abood, right? Which was next to Abood's home system. Abood hadn't even had a go yet, right? This was his first game of Twilight. He did that. But in my diary cam footage, I said that was arguably the best move. That was the thing he should have done. He should have gone there, taken the planets, and then forced Abood to take them back, and then, he's sitting pretty, right? Yeah. However, the flip side of the coin is Abood's first game. Granted, he plays a lot of Civ and Stellaris and all this kind of stuff online, so he understands the idea of Civ games. However, he is still a new player. So that kind of set the tone for the rest of the game, where everyone went, right, Ralph's playing for keeps. We need to stop him from winning this game. And at the end of the game, 3 of basically the nukes of the 8 players went onto Ralph in like one or two turns, right? So,
do you think that we do that though? Like the dynamic of our friendship circle is mostly, well, I'm going to feel this out. All right, now we're going to hit you hard. Whereas Ralph's kind of teaching us, and he's teaching me. First move, doesn't matter what game it is. You go hard, you play to win.
I think that may have also come down to, as a group, we were all learning the games together, whereas Ralph has played, especially with TI, he's played a lot more games than us in that game. So he knows you got to go from turn 1. You make the best decision and you go for it. But that is also a really, and this is one of the reasons, Ralph, if you're listening to this, I really enjoy having you as part of our group, because we were all kind of close with each other from being family for years, for being close friends in close groups. And then we happened to meet Ralph randomly through board gaming. And he brought this really unique perspective of how he approaches games, how he thinks about it, the way we talk about it, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to podcast with him, because it was so different. And we have our taste since I've met him 9 months ago. My tastes have molded, and I've started to understand more and go, oh no, we need to, and that's, I think, one of these reasons why, as a group, I only think, I really love the fact that we have all 4 of us here as consistently as we have. All 4 of us have been in I've done all 20 of them, granted it's hosting at my house, but you guys have been in a minimum of 13 or 14 podcasts each, which is phenomenal, right? I know I'm kind of trailing off from where we with our group, but into our podcast group. But this is something that I feel with our group as well, like the amount of board games that we have actually played, and seeing as how we're all starting to realize what our tastes are. From 2 years ago, we played 61 games in 2020 in total. I played 61 games. This year, we've already surpassed 159. Yeah. Right? In just 2 years, we've nearly tripled the amount of games I've played in 1 year, which is nearly 1 game every 3 days. Yeah. Right? I'm like, that's so many games. But I'm actually more in love with board gaming than I ever was.
Definitely. And I think, when you start to play these games more often, it's when you really start to understand them. Like you said, a lot of it is feeling out the game, and you're sort of timid in the first couple of moves because you're learning, and then you finish the game, you finish strong, and you think, right, okay, I'm going to do that so and so next time straight from the start. And then it's 3 months until 3, 4, 5, 6 months before you get that game to the table again, because whatever reason you can't play, you get busy playing other games, trying other things. 6 months later, you sit in front of the same game. Oh shit, I've got to relearn this again. And it starts all over again.
I think this year is the first year we've really, instead of going, let's play a new game every week, this year we had a Terraforming Mars, where we did Terraforming Mars once every week for 4 weeks. Yeah. And then we did Dead Reckoning when that arrived, and we did that once a week for about 6 weeks. Yeah. And all of a sudden you realise, after those repeat plays, everything's like, oh god, I want to play it again. Because you're like, now I understand more. Oh, Matt did the bosun straight. Oh, I need to try the bow. And we actually started going, you know what? Everyone liked the game, but everyone wanted to play more. Yeah. And I think, as a podcast, that is really helping imbue that love with not only us, but our close relatives around us, because we're finding these new loves. And something as simple as, Matt, you deciding to take Carcassonne, which is a game that's been sitting on my shelf, but you've looked past and never really played, but then we decided to play it as a Gateway Game of the Week, and you've now going to buy the big box for your kids. I mean, how amazing is that?
No, the whole experience of, the casts, but over the last, I don't know how many years we've been playing this, one of the things I did want to chat about tonight was our history, but I think we're going to run out of time tonight, so we'll leave that for another night. But this...
I think we'll leave that for the end of the season, I reckon, for our review show, our Christmas show, I reckon.
But the thing I really love about our little group here in the podcast is we're approaching it with the same passion, but we are coming at it from very different perspectives. Like Ralph's definitely our resident professional player, I'd almost put it. Right? He the knowledge of not just game techniques, but all of the games that he knows. It's astounding that he just keeps coming up with new games to play. I'm like, I've never heard of this thing. I've never heard of it. Where are you getting this stuff from, right? And it's read and writes. It's individual player stuff. It's huge big box stuff. He's got it all. We've got Neba, who's a massive collector who's been going and with the family for years. And I think you're probably the more general all-rounder for us.
I'm the stat keeper.
You are the stat keeper.
I'm the stat keeper. People gave me crap 6 years ago when I started just going, what are you doing? I'm taking stats of all my board games. And now, 6 years later, everyone just goes, I can sit in bed and George is like, you've played Twilight Imperium for how many hours? So also, the answer to that question is 52 hours.
Dear God.
No, it's, 48 hours over 5 games so far.
Wow. But this has also allowed you to open up your love to other people, but finally get to play the big box games that you've been collecting and wanting to play and haven't been able to really get to the table with just the family.
Yeah.
And then there's big combo, big points over here. Enough said about that. Bloody hell. You're the tactician, if ever I've met one. There's a look that you get in your eyes. I'm like, no, right, well, the game's over for me. Blake's on a winner here. He's figured something out. And I think my slot's now actually become the family guy. I think I've actually taken the role of the kid entertainer.
Like the dad.
Yeah, that's right.
Even though I'm a dad as well, and but you are like a lot of your gaming experience happens to be
with the kids.
Yeah, and because they're at that age, and I'm actually really excited to get to that point with my kids.
I can't wait till Evie's right there. Actually, Teddy's going to be an absolute. He's going to be a jerk.
He's going to be the worst of.
He's going to be a table flipper, I reckon.
Not in my house. Oh. All right. Well, with that, I think we should start winding this one up, though.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It's been a very interesting one.
Bit of a casual one.
Yeah, but I think these casual ones, and we're going to be doing a bit more of these ones, I think, in the future. I think, I really enjoy. I hope you enjoyed it listening to it. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I know I did.
Yeah, definitely.
Always. Yeah. Always enjoyable.
So, if you enjoyed what you were listening to, guys, please go to our website, www.boardgamegateway.com. There you'll find all the latest episodes, some articles that we've written, some videos. Ralph's been doing a crap ton of unboxings lately, which has been good.
Yeah, I've decided I'm not doing them anymore. I can't compete with that quality. He's got a whole setup. That's right.
I'm going to start doing a couple as well. I've got a couple of ideas for how I'm going to do it. But I also do want to start, I'm going to try and next year, I'm going to do my first actual proper review of a game. I don't know which one yet, but I'm going to start doing that. And so there's a whole bunch of extra stuff there. We'd also love to see you in our Facebook group and our Discord specifically. We're trying to start using our Discord a lot more. One of the things that we have upcoming soon is that we're actually going to be running our first Board Game Arena community competition. We're actually going to run a patchwork competition, which will be played not in real time, will be played over the course of a weeks and two. So if you want to sign up, go to our Discord. The links will be there. You can find all these links on our website, so go to that website once again, www.boardgamegateway.com. But that's about it from us tonight. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope you come back for the next one. Next week's episode is going to be massive. I'm so keen to do this.
I'm excited.
I'm very excited. I am very keen. So come back for episode 20 if that's the next episode.
You can stream it live next week as well, I reckon.
Oh God! Now I'm gonna have to think about that. All right. Well,
take live phone calls.
Yeah, that's right. Phone ins.
Our first dedications.
We'll have a think about that. But anyway, until that point, on behalf of myself, Matt and Blake, thank you very much. We'll see you guys next time.
Cheerio.
Thank you guys. Bye.
Toodaloo.
And another one. He's on fire. He's 2 from 2.
Toodaloo.
Toodaloo.
Where do you get that from?
Oh.